Eric Swalwell wants everybody in California to vote by phone, as if we don't have enough issues with mail-in ballots. Rob Bonta's whole story with $400,000 in legal fees gets a little bit stranger with a new letter that emerged. Also, Karen Bass believes that people who talk about the wildfires are dangerous because they're spreading misinformation. All that and more on tonight's episode of the California Underground, starting right now. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the California Underground. I am your host, Phil. We have a ton of stuff to get to tonight, so we're going to get to it. Thank you if you are here already because of the Thanksgiving holiday, wherever you are traveling. So we're going to hop right into it. But before you get started, make sure you subscribe, like, share, follow. All that stuff helps with the algorithm, helps people find us, helps people who are interested in California politics find us. And as always, with me, my trusty co-host, the best, the fastest researcher in the West. Camille, how are you doing tonight?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I want to thank, again, everybody who is out there watching us, wherever you are, traveling or whatever. Maybe you're trying to take a break from hanging out with family. Maybe it's already too much family for you with this Thanksgiving week. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Wherever you are, whether you're traveling, let us know in the chat. Now, preface to tonight's episode, if you feel like you're watching this episode and you're saying to yourself, this feels like deja vu, did I watch this episode or listen to this episode already? You wouldn't be that far off, because tonight we are kind of talking about two stories we talked about last week. We talked about Eric Swalwell a little bit. More stuff came out and he kind of hit the ground running with campaigning. So we have more of his unique ideas on what he was due as governor. New candidates have entered, old candidates have dropped out. The Rob Bonta story, which we were joking before we hopped on, sounds like it's going to end up as a Netflix documentary. That's how strange it's getting. And then Karen Bass trying to deflect from any responsibility for the wildfires. So we have a ton of stuff to get to. But the first story I want to talk about is this Rob Bonta story. So last week, we talked about how Rob Bonta had spent $480,000 in campaign funds for legal fees. And that was the big news. Everyone was like, wait, why are you spending $480,000 with this law firm that specializes in white collar crime? I'm imagining he's hiring them for white collar crime because everything else is like corporations or IP. I don't think he's hiring them for that. And that's a lot of money to spend for something that's there's no crime. So I do want to go back. This story has been ongoing for a while and it gets crazier and crazier. And like I said, this is probably going to end up. Somebody asked, do we engage with the chat? We do. So we are watching the chat. So, if you have any questions or comments or anything like that, we are watching the chat. Check in. Let us know in California where you're tuning in from. I like my visual aids, so I went ahead and engaged in some arts and crafts and came up with this nice little chart. Basically outline all the players, because before we really jump into this story, we have a video and breaking news. Let's take a look at this. Andy Duong is one of the Duong brothers who is being indicted by the feds for bribery and corruption. This happened, I think, almost a year ago. We were looking at almost a year ago, maybe January of last year. And he was engaged in corruption, bribery, bribing politicians. So he's like the big head honcho, I guess you could say. He was the big fish that they were going after with the feds. That's why he's at the top. He was also a big donor to a lot of heavy-hitting Democrats. Gavin Newsom, Rob Bonta, obviously we know about. Sheng Thao, who was the former Oakland mayor until she was indicted and had to quit. She is facing federal charges for corruption involving Duong brothers. So there's a trial for that going on. That's going to happen in October of next year. So she's facing federal charges. He's facing federal charges. Rob Bonta last year was connected, and we looked at it and said, oh, that's interesting. He had to return $155,000. I wonder why. Now it came out that he spent almost $500,000 on legal fees related to this criminal investigation. And then there's this other gentleman, Mario Juarez, and Mario Juarez is, I call him like the bag man for the Duongs because he was like the money man. So he was a Democratic insider in Oakland. Keep in mind, this is all like Oakland politics. Like this is how corrupt and bad Oakland is like this is all Oakland. Like they're all Oakland natives. Mario Juarez is an Oakland native. He was almost gunned down outside of his house. That's how crazy this story gets. Is I think the Duongs put out a hit on him to shut him up when they were facing
Speculation. Sorry,
speculation.
I just
Yeah,
speculation.
that's what I'm speculating is that the Duongs put out a hit on Mario Juarez. They almost killed him outside of his house in Oakland. So he's like the bag man. He's the money man. He's the one who like arranged all the money for the politicians. There's belief that he is the whistleblower and the Fed's like number one witness in this case. So he's spilling all the beans on what's going on because he knows where all the bodies are hidden, where all the skeletons are. So, any questions before we move on to the video, and then we'll continue talking about this story? Anybody from the chat? Camille?
This is all goes back to the federal lawsuit of the mayor, right?
Yes. Yeah, this was all part of the federal indictment linking to the mayor when there was an FBI raid on her home and they found all
And
this
then,
information.
yeah, so that there was all this money with the Duongs who own like a waste management company up there.
Mhm.
And then Rob Bonta hasn't been accused of anything, but he was brought in for questioning or brought in as a witness and immediately lawyered up almost $500K. That was back in February that he paid. And you looked up the law firm, and like you said, they deal with a lot of this sort of white collar crime. And I just want to make sure I'm like, that me and the chat that we're caught up. I know we talked about it before, but this story. So then we know Mario, right? Is that his name? Mario Juarez was gunned down. We know that happened. We don't know why or who was behind it, but we are speculating that it goes back to this. Somebody was paid. Likely, we're not saying somebody was paid, but
there's a lot of speculation.
The tea leaves line up. It appears that, because it happened like right after a bunch of this started coming out. And here we are today, and more has come out with Rob Bonta, the Attorney General of California.
Yep.
Okay,
a lot of people checking in. I just want to let the chat know that a lot of people checking in from the East Bay tonight. So this is right in your backyard, all of this nice corruption. This story that is
so
really
if you have some insider information or rumors, tell us.
Rumors, let us know. But let's check out this news story and what has transpired since last week.
A defendant in the bribery and corruption case surrounding former Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao allegedly took a secret, compromising video of California Attorney General Rob Bonta. That is just one of the explosive accusations in a letter obtained by the ABC 7 News I-team that appears to have sped up the FBI investigation. Good evening, I'm Amma Dates.
I'm Dan Ashley. Thanks for joining us here. The I-team's Dan Noyes is investigating all of this and is here with the latest. Dan.
Well, Dan and Amma, this letter may also help to explain why the Attorney General spent $468,000 of campaign contributions on legal fees to help him deal with FBI investigators. I want to emphasize that Rob Bonta has not been charged in this case, and there's no indication he is a suspect. In the letter dated May 9th, 2024 to Attorney General Rob Bonta, Mario Juarez writes about his business partners from Oakland-based California Waste Solutions. I have firsthand knowledge of various criminal activities perpetrated by the Duong family, including money laundering, illegal political donations, falsification of contracts, and exploitation of straw donors. These activities extend to facilitating prostitution for elected officials, including minors.
I'm just going to stop right there. It seems to me we have in California our own Jeffrey Epstein, right? Like this sounds like a Jeffrey Epstein sort of story where the Duongs are so powerful and they funneled so much money to politicians for power. They got kickbacks, they got favorable contracts, they got whatever they wanted because they were so embedded with a lot of these Democratic politicians. Now there's allegations that they were trafficking minors to politicians. Now, I'm not saying that, again, allegedly, we don't want to get in hot water with the Attorney General of California, but allegedly, Rob Bonta was videotaped in a compromising position by the Duongs so that they could use it as blackmail on Rob Bonta to get whatever they wanted. So that's just a clarification. It seems like we quite literally have a Jeffrey Epstein story on our hands here in California with the Duongs.
Rob Bonta, Attorney General, knew far more of what was going on in this investigation with the Duongs than any of us knew.
Stephen Tavares runs the political Substack East Bay Insiders. He first broke news of the Juarez letter, and I obtained it from another source.
The letter shows that Mario was despondent and that he was basically going to get back retribution against the Duongs.
Mario Juarez was partners with David and Andy Duong in Evolutionary Homes, a company that converted shipping containers to housing for the homeless. But Juarez writes that on May 3rd, 2024, the Duongs locked him out of the showroom on the Oakland waterfront and that they ordered an attack by a group of armed men. Quote, I was threatened with firearms and a knife, assaulted and robbed of personal belongings, including a gold chain and Rolex watch. The I-Team obtained these photos showing Juarez's injuries, his swollen face and head. He goes on to say he was coerced into delivering an apology to David Duong, while Andy and Christina Duong recorded the interaction. Then, just 1 month later,
and he starts shooting back, like firing back, pa, 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 pa.
Juarez got into a shootout with men who broke into his SUV. Tavares believes it's no coincidence that just days later, the FBI raided the homes of David and Andy Duong and of then Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao and her partner, Andre Jones.
11 days later, the raids happen. It strongly suggests that the FBI had found Mario Juarez, made him the star witness. When this got out that he was cooperating, they moved quick.
Some of what Mario Juarez wrote in that letter appears in the federal bribery and corruption.
Just one more break. Well, probably another break. So here's the timeline, is that Mario Juarez put out this letter, and then the Duongs locked him out, beat the crap out of him, stole his personal belongings. He tried to go home, and then he was almost assassinated. And then, of course, law enforcement picks him up because there's this shootout. And then I guess he becomes the star witness in this whole Duong thing. And then 11 days later, so let's put the little breadcrumbs together, Mario Juarez, who was on the outs with the Duong, all of a sudden 11 days later, now they're being raided by the FBI and Sheng Tao, who are now facing federal indictment. So it sounds like he was trying to get this letter out to say, I have all this knowledge of illegal activity. They tried to allegedly tried to get rid of Mario, and then law enforcement scooped him up before he could be in any more danger. So that's where we're at right now.
Indictment. His name isn't there, but he's believed to be listed as co-conspirator one. Wilson Leung is a former federal prosecutor.
It is interesting that this letter came out, more than a year ago now. And some of its allegations seem to have been proven sufficiently correct so that the feds are willing to take action on some of them.
Lawyers for Andy Duong emailed me that he vigorously denies the baseless allegations in this letter. David Duong's lawyers say he strongly denies them. They both argue that Juarez has credibility issues and cannot be believed. Dan Newman, spokesperson for Bonta's re-election campaign, confirms the Attorney General received the letter and forwarded it to the FBI. Juarez also wrote, Bonta should know that Andy Duong in particular has a recording of you in a compromising situation, and that he routinely engages in entertaining elected and other officials to extract recordings without their knowledge for later use in blackmail circumstances.
A recording of him in a compromising situation, although it's uncertain what that means, it's also uncertain whether that's true. So there's a lot of questions that this letter prompts.
The spokesman for Rob Bonta tells me the Attorney General is not concerned about that report of a compromising video and says Mario Juarez wrote that letter as a desperate guy at a desperate moment with walls closing in.
Whew. All right. So I don't want to speculate what the compromising position is, but it seems like so far what this Mario Juarez has said has been backed up. So that's why the feds are continuing to listen to him, and he's continued to be like their star witness. So a lot of this stuff that he's put out there seems to be true. And it seems this isn't just Rob Bonta, it's a lot of politicians. So I wonder, a year ago, back in May of 2024, over a year ago, which is when it looks like this happened, we said, boy, I wonder how deep this goes. Now I really wonder how deep this goes, because if they take videos of people in compromising positions, again, we might have like a Jeffrey Epstein situation on our hands where these dwongs have videos of politicians in all these compromising positions. Somebody said there was a council member from San Leandro, just south of Oakland, that is also caught up in the investigation into Sheng Thao. So there's a lot more people who I think are going to be caught up in this. Here's an article from the SFist. It goes into a little bit more about not long after Sheng Thao's house was raided by the FBI in the summer of 2024, a quickie scandal bubbled up that State Attorney General Rob Bonta had some tangential involvement vis-a-vis helping steer $680,000 in state loan money to a failed energy startup run by one of the figures in the Sheng Thao scandal. That scandal never went anywhere, and Bonta, who was state assembly at the time of the loan, was never shown to have any wrongdoing on his hand. So this was all the way back, how many years ago? Back in 2024, has some tangential involvement. So he's been involved with the Dwongs since he was an assemblyman. This was the law firm Wilson, Sassani, Goodrich, and Rosati, presumably to defend him from that mess. Though notably, it's generally believed that Juarez is now the FBI's informant and whistleblower in the Sheng Thao case and has turned against the alleged bribe givers who are now being prosecuted. The letter to Bonta's dated May 9th, 2024, which is a few weeks after the Sheng Thao raid, a few weeks before. And there's a nice little picture of Rob Bonta. This is Rob Bonta, and I believe this is Andy Duong and his wife, Mia Bonta. So that's them hanging out in this lovely little limo that he probably took them out in. But then it goes on to talk about the letter disclosed that Sheng Thao's boyfriend, Andre Jones, was being paid more than $80,000 for fictitious work as well as illegal financial contributions during the mayoral campaign, which the FBI said was true. More craziness and how deep this really goes really becomes the big question. And I did want to take a look at this real quick. There's some more pictures. This was Rob Bonta with Andy Duong at a Warriors game. It looks like Golden State Warriors. And then this is them in that limo again. This was the shootout. That's what the car looked like. So there's plenty of pictures of Rob Bonta with Andy Duong. So they were very close. They were very friendly. And where this goes, that's all we can speculate at this point. Like, this is really one of those crazy stories where it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And I can imagine, as an attorney myself, I've talked to other like attorney buddies of mine and said $500,000 for legal fees is a ton of money for legal fees. It is a ton of money. You usually don't drop $500,000 on legal fees right at the beginning, unless it's a huge retainer, unless you have trial or something like that. But if there's nothing there, you don't usually drop $500,000 on something like this. So it is very fishy. It is very odd that all of this is happening. I wonder how much Rob Bonta is trying to cover up, how much he is trying to get ahead of. Maybe he's trying to get this legal team ahead of all of this. Maybe he wants to be cooperating. Who knows? But again, this might be sort of a Jeffrey Epstein of California sort of situation where who knows how deep this goes, how many politicians are probably implicated in all of this. Looks like we lost Camille for a second, so I'm just going to keep going. The story keeps unfolding. That's literally what's happening here, is that the story keeps unfolding, and it looks like, oh, here's Camille. She came back. Hey, Camille. I was just finishing out my thoughts. We were showing some pictures of Rob Bonta, Annie Duong. I mean, this is really kind of like a to be continued story. Like right now, this is the information we have. There's supposedly a letter. He spent $500,000 on defending himself from a crime that supposedly didn't happen. And where it goes from here, obviously we're going to keep on top of it. But I wanted to get your thoughts about all of this, because I've been talking for a little bit now.
Yeah, thank you. So this story, like you said, it has been crazy. And I think we even said when we first started talking, before we knew that Rob Bonta was involved in the story, where we were talking about it on a previous episode last year, earlier this year, whatever it was, we said we need to start looking into everybody that the Duong family has donated to. And we had pulled up like they had been involved in other corruption issues, but we speculated, how deep does this really go? And then even this, I feel like this isn't as deep as it goes. And like you said, this should be and could be a Netflix documentary someday. And this is a crazy California story. It might be the most crazy California story happening, because, I mean, it involves our attorney general of all people, the attorney general, who, again, I understand he hasn't been accused of a crime. And then we do know the $468K that came from the campaign funds earlier this year, but then I wonder what has come from him privately. If he's, paid more lawyer fees since then privately, that we obviously are not privy to because they're not public record.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sorry, I don't know if you covered the FPPC filing, because a lot of people.
Yeah, good call.
You're probably, if you're on social media often, you're probably seeing this. They're making a big deal about, yes, an FPPC complaint has been filed against Rob Bonta, and I'm not saying nothing happened, because again, we don't really know what's going to go on with this story. But I do want you to know that an FPPC complaint could be nothing. It could absolutely be nothing. It could be huge. I have looked at for years now, literally, I look at the monthly agenda of the FPPC, and I'll see where they'll come up with somebody had a complaint and they research the complaint. And then what the FPPC does is that if the complaint is valid, they will open a case. If it's not, they just close it. I have had a few FPPC complaints of my own. One of them has been dismissed. One of them has been, they've checked into it and closed it. Another one, they asked for more information, and it's been pending for a few more years. Like, they actually contacted me and asked me for a bunch of information. So I just want to say that the complaint could go nowhere, or it could be huge, but we're seeing a lot of, sensationalized posts about, yes, there has been an official complaint. Like, anybody here can go and make a complaint, and then it could go nowhere. So just wanted to add that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very sensational, because a lot of people think it's a big deal, but it happens all the time. Anybody can make it. Anybody can do it. People make FPPC complaints all the time. Whether they're going to look into it is another issue. That's, FPPC doesn't move very quickly. In our experience, is that it doesn't move very quickly at all. So, but the feds, on the other hand, move very quickly. So the feds might be moving pretty quickly when it comes to Bonta. Again, $500,000 to drop on legal fees for no crime is quite the story. Somebody said $500,000 is like OJ style billable hours for the whole trial. Like that. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Like, I mean, I haven't even heard of a case in my lifetime that billed over $500,000. Like, usually it's to go through trial, maybe they get to $200,000, but those are pretty big civil trials, not usually things of this magnitude. So we will keep our eyes and ears open, and obviously as stuff happens, we'll keep updating you what's going on with this whole Rob Bonta story. It just keeps getting more and more interesting. Switching gears from trafficking in prostitution and compromising positions, which is a little bit dark and serious, let's move to something a little bit more lighthearted. Our favorite gas passer in waiting to be governor, Eric Swalwell, who announced last week that he was running for governor. We did a couple of clips. He hit the ground running. He immediately hit the ground running. He had campaign events. He went on all these different shows. One of the shows he went on was with Alex Michelson, who is now a new CNN guy. He was with, who is it, KTLA or Fox LA?
Fox.
So he moved from Fox LA. He's a LA-based reporter. Now he's with CNN. But he had a video interview, or he had an interview with Swalwell, and he came out with this idea for all Californians when it comes to voting. So let's take a watch real quick.
I know you, from a style perspective, respect what Governor Newsom has been doing in terms of taking the fight to Donald Trump. I know you're close with him. But from a policy perspective, is there any major change?
I want to modernize the state. And he wrote a book called Citizenville, which I read when I was up and coming. And he laid out a lot of great ideas then, and he implemented some of them. And he was a modernizing force. He's leaving, and so there is going to be a void. I want us to be able to vote by phone. I think every Californian vote by phone. Yeah, if we can do our taxes, do our make our healthcare appointments, make.
I don't know anybody who does their taxes by phone. I'm just going to throw that out there. I don't know anybody who does taxes by phone. You may talk to your accountant, you may talk to H&R Block by phone, but I don't think you actually do your taxes by phone. It feels like something a little bit more serious. You should taxes are something. Of course, we're not fan of taxes here, but if you don't do your taxes, then the government comes down on you with the threat of force and imprisonment. But so you have to take it seriously. So I wouldn't just trust a phone to do my taxes or do some sort of app. That's all I'm saying. I don't know anything about people who use their phone for taxes. We'll talk about the whole voting by phone in a second. But
actually, do your banking online. You should be able to vote by phone. Make it safe, make it secure, but it's actually already happening all over the United States. I want us to be a blue state that doesn't do just a little bit better than like Georgia or Alabama.
It's happening all over the United States?
Yeah, he said that like it's happening, vote by phone's happening all over the United States.
Is that just like he's running to be the governor of the country of California? Was that him that said that?
Is that a Freudian slip?
Didn't he say that though? Sorry, I know that's a totally different topic, but did he not say I'm running to be the governor of the country of California or something like that?
Yeah, and Jimmy Kimmel, he said that California is the greatest country in the world.
Yeah,
and then Jimmy Kimmel was like, the greatest country. He's like, yeah, it's the greatest country. No, let's listen to that again.
He was a modernizing force. He's leaving. And so there make our healthcare appointments, make essentially do your banking online. You should be able to vote by phone. Make it safe, make it secure, but it's actually already happening all over the United States.
Again, that was a good catch, Camille, because what do you mean it's happening all over the country? I don't know any state that allows you to vote by phone. The reason this is going viral is because it's such a crazy cockamamie idea that everybody's looking at going, excuse me, vote by phone? Like as if mail-in ballots and just shoving mail-in ballots in everybody's box isn't already an issue. And now you want people to quite literally like press 1 for Democrat, press 2 for Republican. Like, is that how this is going to go? Is that how are they going to verify it's actually you? Like, not that they actually verify anybody voting in California without voter ID or anything like that. But is that a slip where he said people are voting by phone? I don't know. My conspiracy hat is on tonight because after that last clip we were just talking about, this is off topic, but with the last story we were just talking about, putting my tinfoil hat on. What if the story of Dana Williamson, who was indicted for corruption and was the former chief of staff for Newsom, and this Duong story are all connected? Ooh, somebody cue the X-Files music. Anyway. Let's finish. What else does his bright ideas on how to modernize and maximize democracy?
I want us to be a blue state that doesn't do just a little bit better than like Georgia or Alabama when it comes to like voting access. I want us to max out democracy. Also, as it relates to democracy, If you wait in line for 30 minutes or more, if you do want to vote in person, I think you should fine every county for every minute that a person has to wait longer. We have to be better, not just a little bit better than the other states. The DMV.
Did he just propose a new tax?
He did. He proposed a new
On
tax
voting?
on the counties. If you don't move people through the lines fast enough within 30 minutes, and who's keeping track of this? Who's keeping track of the fact that you're in line for 30 plus minutes? Like, these are all really crazy ideas, and this is what he's leading with. This is what Eric Swalwell is leading his gubernatorial campaign with.
I feel like he basically just said, I don't want senior citizens to vote because, first of all, they're probably going to be slower in the poll, like in person on the computer screen, or either in person, you know, like they're going to probably be a little bit slower than the rest of us in person. But then I can't even imagine them trying to figure out this app or whatever on their phones to vote. And so he's basically just like, don't stand in line, don't like, and use your phone. And it's like, what are the senior citizens supposed to do? But okay, I guess they have mail-in.
Somebody in the chat said you need to get a few solid clips on your soundboard. The X-Files one would be a good one. Yeah, that'd be a good one. Every time we come up with a new conspiracy, we just hit the X-Files theme, like tinfoil hat time. All right, let's see what else he has to say.
Californians should have to go in person to the DMV anymore. I think we can do that virtually. I think you can have the DMV employees do it virtually, but that's a lot of real estate.
Is that the most popular position?
Digitize the DMV.
I mean, nobody wants to go to the DMV, but are you going to like reduce the personnel of the DMV to service people in person? How are you going to get a picture ID? Like how are...
Yeah, I have to renew my license next month. And my thing, like, you know, normally whatever, a few years go in, I'll go in because my birthday's after Christmas. I'll go in on Christmas Eve early in the morning and I'm in and out really quickly. But this one, they're like, you have to do the written test. What already? What? How old am I? And the new eye exam and get a new photo. And I'm like, I can't even renew online. I'm kind of with him on like, no one should go to the DMV, but I guess I have to do I have to go in person. I don't have the option of doing this online, and I wish I did.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to go to the DMV. Are they going to reduce personnel? Are they going to try and make it more efficient? Are they going to try and save taxpayers money by making it virtual? Are they going to save them money by not having to charge for all the real estate like he was talking about, how much they have to do that? I doubt it. I doubt that will.
I doubt it.
I doubt, as Eric Swalwell, it's actually going to reduce the cost of running the DMV. Not to mention all the people who are going to have to get pensions who work at the DMV. But that's his idea. He wants to vote by phone. It's bad enough. Like the argument has been made, and I sort of agree with the idea of like, if you can't get your butt off the couch to even like walk down to a polling station, outside of if you have like a disability and you can't get to the polling station, you go out and you request an absentee ballot and you request all the reasons why you need it. That's what it should be used for. But if you're too lazy to get off the couch and like go to a voting center, I don't think you're that engaged in the political process wherein you should be voting. Like, I don't know. Like if you're not bothered enough to actually get off the couch and do anything, like are you bothered enough to do research on politics? Are you bothered enough to read about politics? Or to me, it just seems like it's an issue of maybe the people who really want to vote should be able to just walk in and vote and get rid of the mail-in balloting. Like we brought it all in because of COVID and the universal mail-in ballots. And then there was ballot harvesting, which is even crazier that someone can show up to your door and ask for your ballot and be like, hey, have you voted? If not, like I can get it for you and bring it to just collect all these ballots. I don't know. There has to be a little bit of effort on the part of voting. And if you just have to sit on your couch and press a button of who you're going to vote for, that seems fishy to me. Like I wouldn't trust that. I don't know if anyone in the chat would trust voting by phone. I feel like even if you're trying to get in customer service to like fix like a bank issue or your cell phone, like you have trouble just getting through to like customer service. Now you want your like one of your most important rights as an American to be trusted to some sort of phone tree or phone bank. Like, I don't know. I don't think anyone trusts it. Show me someone
plus
who's
it's
in
going to
favor
be
of it.
an app that'll probably take okay. The Cal Access website, which is through the Secretary of State, which is where you go and you can look up all these financials of these candidates and politicians. Like it's where you can, see who's filed, look at their spending, their earnings, and all that. They have been in the works for how long now? They were supposed to get a new website. The whole program was supposed to be upgraded. I want to say like 10 years ago. And it was supposed to take a couple years. And like with everything else, the budget has it's been overblown and hasn't even happened yet. It's like a decade behind, just, like the high-speed rail. So even this idea, if they implement it, we're going to get taxed, the last few pennies that we even have of our paychecks to go to this app that will probably never even come to fruition because it's just going to, all the issues that they're going to have with it and creating it. And just, this is how the California government works. So I feel like even if he somehow gets this through, that it's like an approved idea, that it's just never going to actually happen.
Mm-hmm. And I did see a story I was thinking about it being a topic tonight was Newsom and the government spent $450 million on revising or updating the 911 system. And it didn't happen. They never updated it. And nothing ever got better. So just to give you an idea of California and how they can modernize things and make things better, we spent $500 million to update the 911 system, and it didn't help at all. So there's $500 million in taxpayer money down the drain. So
we spent $6 billion to end homelessness, or 24. How much did we spend on homelessness?
Well, it was $24 billion before they asked for Prop 1, and then Prop 1 asked for an additional $6 billion in bond, which then we did the math, and is going to end up being about $10 billion for taxpayers to pay back with interest. So about $34 billion.
I'm sorry, this was not supposed to be tonight's topic,
but yeah, just as an example of like, if you think you can trust the California state government to fully enact and be able to do some sort of safe and secure method of voting by phone, I've got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Eric Swalwell, his entrance into the race has caused another candidate to just be overwhelmed with his prowess, his intellect, his charisma, and he decided, I'm out. I'm out now. I'm going to step back, and I think it's time for me to relinquish the reins over to Eric Swalwell. We're going to watch this clip real quick and try not to cringe too badly.
So you're dropping out of the race.
I am dropping out of the race and supporting Eric Swalwell as the next governor of California, and he will be the greatest leader of this great state, California. So, and with that, I've been with you and I brought props.
You like a good prop.
I like a good prop, but I have this pin that I had made.
It's Golden Bear.
And it's the Golden Bear, and I give it to you as I wore it proudly, and I want you to wear it proudly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me put that on.
Well, look at that.
I mean, you two are longtime friends.
No.
What?
In case you're listening on audio or you missed it, Stephen Cloobeck, and if you ask who this guy is, we'll explain in a second, took his Golden Bear pin and gave it to Eric Swalwell as a way of passing the torch. You might be asking, who the hell is Stephen Cloobeck? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. He was polling at 0% anyway, so he's a nobody. And he passed it to Eric Swalwell as if it was this big gesture of like, you go get him, son. I'm really impressed with you.
What does this mean to you, this moment?
Well, thank you, Stephen. It does mean a lot. And I've admired the race that you've run. You ran to bring down costs.
Day one, I let everyone know that I didn't intend to get in this race. And I interviewed every single candidate, and I could not find one that was qualified. So I decided to jump in myself. When Eric jumped in the race, we sat and talked. And Eric's a man of integrity.
I mean, integrity like dating a Chinese spy, but whatever. Integrity, like possibly being in trouble for mortgage fraud, sure, that sort of integrity.
Character, values, and a great leader. And he'll be a great leader of this wonderful country, the state of California. And I'm happy to say tonight that I'm going to merge my campaign into his and give him all the hard work that I've worked on and let him take it forward and cheer him on.
I'm so inspired.
That was emotional. I was
like,
touched.
That is okay.
Pull yourself together, Camille. I know it's a touching moment of Stephen Cloobeck, who everybody in the chat is going, who?
Stephen Hubeck?
Stephen Hubeck? Stephen Cloobeck, I was about to say Stephen Hubeck. Stephen Cloobeck was a billionaire who ran as a Democrat. Again, Democrats hate billionaires except when they run as Democrats. He polled at 0%. Fun story about Stephen Cloobeck for us behind the scenes. Here's a little inside baseball. We were getting, at least I was, approached by the Stephen Cloobeck campaign a lot because they said, well, would you be willing to wear Stephen Cloobeck's clothing or merchandise and do a post about Stephen Cloobeck? You know, we'll send you the merchandise. There might be a little bit of a payment. Just do the post. And I was like, if anyone knows this show, anyone who's a new listener, we don't do any endorsements. We never endorse a candidate. That's not the point of the show. Our whole thing is we believe our listeners are smart enough to hear the information and make their own decisions. And I said, look, we're not into that. We're not doing that. So I guess that was his whole thing, was buying off influencers and giving them free merch and making them do like little skits or something on social media. We didn't, because I was like, that's stupid. So that's our little inside baseball, Stephen Cloobeck. So I guess that's what he's handing over.
Responded with Stephen Hubeck?
I said, who?
That's all he said.
Who?
Just
who
kidding.
Is this? I'm sorry. Is this a wrong number? I don't know who you're talking about,
What's
Stephen
your name
Cloobeck.
again, bro?
What's your name again, bro? And I was like, does he want to come on the show? Like, is that what you're asking? They're like, oh, well, maybe he wants to come on the show, but just, do you want us to give you money in this merchandise? I was like, no, I don't want you to give me money or merchandise, because that's not who we are. And I'm not going to wear merchandise of a guy who's polling at 0%. So Stephen Cloobeck's out, and I'm sure you're all devastated that Stephen Cloobeck, a billionaire, is out, but don't fret. Just when one billionaire Democrat leaves, there is another billionaire Democrat who has entered the race. So everyone hold on. Don't fret. There's another billionaire who has jumped into the race. He's a familiar face, big anti-Trumper. So let's take a look at his campaign ad.
The richest people in America think that they earned everything themselves. Bullshit, man. That's so ridiculous. There's a reason everybody comes here to start businesses, because this is the place that invents the future. I never want to lose that spark. I'm Tom Steyer. I wanted to build a business here. Now it's worth billions of dollars. And I walked away from it because I wanted to give back to California. I've taken on the out-of-state corporations that refuse to pay their California taxes. I've taken on...
Yes.
He did not walk away from the business. He sold his shares of the business for like millions or billions.
Yeah. He didn't walk away as a businessman who is a billionaire. He got paid for his business. So didn't walk away. He didn't give up billions of dollars like this altruistic guy.
The oil companies, I've taken on the tobacco companies. We've raised billions of dollars for Californian citizens without charging Californian citizens a nickel. Every day I was judged by numbers. So let's get down to brass tacks. Californians deserve a life they can afford. But the Californians who make this state run are being run over by the cost of living. We need to get back to basics. And that means making corporations pay their fair share again. Californians deserve a top 10 education state. They deserve to be able to afford to live.
I mean, at this point, California is so bad in education, maybe just top like 25 would be an improvement, because right now they're what, 45th, 47th in education?
I think they moved their way to 38th.
Oh,
you know?
okay. They're making progress. So
Hope.
maybe shoot
Yeah.
for top 25. Don't make it like too high of expectations, but top half of the country would be an improvement where it is now.
In a decent house, I will launch the largest drive to build homes that you can afford in the history of California. We have the second highest.
I always fret over politicians saying they're going to help build housing, because unless the next words out of your mouth are, I'm going to scrap CEQA, I'm going to reduce regulations, I'm going to, work on getting rid of regulations that make building materials so expensive, make it so not everybody has to be a union contractor, again, bringing down the cost of building the house. I don't really want to hear your solution, because your solution as a politician, likely as a progressive Democrat, means taxing the hell out of somebody to build some sort of housing that nobody wants, like some high density apartment complex. So,
yes. Also, name one bill that the California legislature has passed regarding affordable housing that has brought down the cost of housing.
Well, none, because it just keeps going up. So I can't think of any.
Exactly.
Race in the country. If we break up the monopolistic power of utilities, we're going to unleash a complete wave of innovation and drop our sky high.
I'll let you go first. I have a comment on this too.
Yeah, all right. I think you and I probably both agree, because we complain about the high cost of utilities all the time, and we do agree that they are they're a monopoly at this point. It's basically PG&E owns SDG&E and Edison, and I don't know what they call it up north, but yes, PG&E pretty much has the control of the power over this entire state. And I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of the different things that we could do. I'm sure you're going to. But anyway, he doesn't say how he's going to do this, but if he's doing it as governor, I don't think he's going to in any way, shape, or form try to privatize it. He's going to do it as a government thing. And so then it just becomes, it's no longer for the corporations to do, it's for the government to do. And that's just one more thing we don't need to give to the government, because it will never become affordable. It will just keep going up, or, tax like crazy. Anyway, your comment.
Yeah, my comment was I agree with him in principle that power companies and utility companies as a public monopoly are why utility prices and electricity continue to rise, and there's nothing you can do about it because there's no competition. Like, who's going to stop SDG&E or PG&E or anybody like that from raising your prices? Doesn't matter. You're not going to get electricity from anyone else anyway. So in principle, I agree with the idea that you should just get rid of these public monopolies. But to your point, I think he's probably not leaning towards let's allow more competition, allow other companies to come in and make it better. I think he's probably saying the government should have a bigger role in utilities. And it's already bad enough when the government is sort of in a public-private partnership with utilities. And let's see how that's going, because the government is sort of in bed with the utility companies and they have no power over them. So it's either competition, unleash competition and let's see what happens. Let's see if companies build more nuclear power plants to create more low cost energy. But I have a feeling it's not that. And we tried to find his website, and he doesn't have a website yet, which is funny. As a billionaire, you think you'd be able to afford paying someone to put up
He does.
Oh, he does have a website.
He does. I didn't know what it was. Sorry. I wasn't clear when you asked me earlier. I just Googled Tom Steyer. Is it Steyer for governor? And then it whatever it was popped up. And because there was something on there that I had copied and pasted to you in text where I made fun of he says this, but yet this is what he's done. So I'm sorry. I should have found it and sent it to you.
My apologies. I did go through DuckDuckGo and nothing came up. So maybe it's just not up in the search results yet. But I feel like he's moving towards, to finish our thought, I think he's probably moving towards the government needs to take over and allow for more competition, which when the government takes over something, it never allows for more competition.
Energy prices. This is about disrupting the way people think so we can get a completely different and much better outcome for the people of California.
I'm saying we have a broken government. It's been bought by corporations. And my question is, who do you think is going to change that?
Sacramento politicians are afraid to change up this system. I'm not. They're going to hate this. Bring it on. I'm Tom Steyer.
Oh, I love the tough guy act.
So
they all
just
do
to,
it. They all do it.
I'm going to take on Sacramento. I'm going to take on the powers. Sure you are. So just to be clear, when billionaires who run as Democrats and vow to take on the system and drain the swamp, good. But when Republican billionaires say they want to take on the system and drain the swamp, that's bad and that's fascist. So just so we're all on the same page, like, okay, so we just understand that Democrat billionaires are fine. Even though I'm not sure that either of these two guys, Stephen Cloobeck, who just left the race, and Tom Steyer, he didn't do well. He ran for president. That's right. He ran for president, actually got into some debates and stuff like that. Obviously didn't earn any votes or anything like that, dropped out almost immediately. He was a big anti-Trumper. He funded tons of stuff against Trump and ads and all that stuff. Let's see how people respond to Tom Steyer being a billionaire and running. But it seems like there are more billionaires on the Democratic side who are jumping into the race. As far as the Republican side, there is Sheriff Bianco, who, as far as I know, is not a billionaire. He's been in law enforcement. So, and Steve Hilton, that's it. And neither of those guys are billionaires. So you had more billionaires on the Democratic side than you did on the Republican side, which is interesting. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Tom Steyer running for governor?
Okay, I actually think politically it does make sense because he has been, he's a big climate change guy. He has donated like a ton of money and time to endorsing different propositions, endorsing politicians. Like when he walked away from his business, his $1 billion business, he left to get involved in politics and vowed to donate a ton of his personal money to climate change and politicians and making change, whether we agree with his policies or not. Like, it makes sense that he would step into this because he has been so politically active for over a decade. And so and then there was the presidential run. So I see how that makes sense for him. Yes. He, on his website that does exist, he said that he would like to ban corporate money, corporate PAC money from, going to politicians and controlling political activity. And yet he has an LLC, FAR, FAHR LLC, that is explicitly like for donating. It's basically donating big money to PACs and Democrats. And so I think that's very funny that his, like, $12 million, I think it was, that is gone from his LLC, so his corporation, to political activity, whether it's been ballot initiatives and props and Democrats. So, and the Democrat Party. Mm-hmm. So I just find that really funny that he suddenly is against that when he runs for governor.
Yeah.
Which also, sorry, this is a legal question. Citizens United versus the FEC. I understand the FEC is not California. I understand that's federal. This is state. But I do feel like it set a precedent. In 2010, there was that lawsuit that basically Citizen United, which is a PAC, the Supreme Court ruled that PACs are like money. Money is free speech. Mm-hmm. And so I don't see how he could ban the corporate. Like, again, I understand that that's a federal thing and that this is now, he's talking about state, but wouldn't it be covered under that? Like, you can't ban that? I'm sorry if I didn't make sense to anybody.
No, because the First Amendment is incorporated into the states through the 14th Amendment. There's likely a First Amendment argument that if you suppress corporations exercising their free speech by donating to certain politicians, yeah, there's probably a case there that if that's what happens, that he tries to do that, he could probably try to limit it. But again, this is all assuming in the crazy world that Tom Steyer actually ends up being governor of California, which I don't believe he will be. And it's always interesting how these billionaires who made a ton of money in California are all of a sudden these like super liberal progressive Democrats. It's like they pulled up the ladder behind them, like, yeah, you did really well and you're a billionaire and you can afford literally everything. And now all of a sudden they're fans of pushing the stuff that makes it more unaffordable for the middle class and more regulations and a bigger Sacramento and a bigger parasite up in Sacramento. I was just thinking off the top of my head, I wonder if Eric Swalwell, I believe Eric Swalwell jumped in for one reason. That's because Katie Porter imploded. Like, because of all the stuff that happened, Eric Swalwell jumped in. I think Tom Steyer also jumped in because Katie Porter imploded. It's getting more and more crowded. The vote is getting split probably 10 ways at this point. There's like 10 named Democrats who are running. I mean, there's like a crap ton of Democrats who are running, but like 10 recognizable names that are running in the Democratic primary. So I think her vote is getting more and more watered down, and I'm sure Eric Swalwell is trying to swoop in and be the moderate guy, the moderate fighter. I did read, or I saw an interesting article. I did want to read, maybe we'll read it next week, but it was going over the whole fact that, like, you have all these Democrats who are running for governor of California, and a lot of their message, like Katie Porter, is anti-Trump. So what are they going to do when there is no Trump? Like, their whole thing is being anti-Trump. Like, Eric Swalwell is anti-Trump, Tom Steyer is anti-Trump, Katie Porter is anti-Trump, Xavier Becerra is anti-Trump. They're all running on this, like, hate Trump or is really bad, the orange man bad. So it's interesting, like, okay, now you got to really think about, what are you going to do for Californians? And I think more Californians are starting to wake up to this and go, well, what are you going to do to help Californians? As maybe there's a portion of the people who do hate Trump and will vote based on Trump. But for governor, I feel like there's going to be a lot of questions about affordability and what they can do to actually help California. So that'll be an interesting kind of thread throughout this election for the next year is, okay, Trump's not going to be in office in 2 more years. What do you do after? You're all campaigning on we hate Trump. Okay, but what's next? Like, what's your real strategy here? What are your thoughts?
Right. Well, yeah. 2 things regarding that. I did believe that that's why Eric and Tom have jumped in, is because it became clear that Katie was losing popularity very fast. And of course, there's always the diehards who are just going to stick with her. But I think they were like, wait a second, we're in a hot mess here. We got to do something. And so it makes sense. Other people jumped in, and I don't care if they hate Trump. Truly, they can hate Trump. Any of you can have it. You can love Trump, hate Trump. I don't care. It doesn't change my opinion of any of you. Like, great, cool. But when you're a politician or you're running for a certain office, that, well, yes, you would have to work with the president for you have to work with the sitting president the whole time. But regarding Trump, it's just going to be like 2 years, and one of those years he'll be like a lame duck at that point. But this is about California. California has issues. We have many issues. I don't need to name them. What are you going to do to fix California? How are you going to help Californians? We don't need you to have these cool gotcha Trump tweets. Like, that's not what Californians need. And so that's why it's like cringy when I see Gavin Newsom's office trying to, like, they have that press office on X trying to copy that. It was funny once. I did laugh. I can appreciate a good joke and a good pun and a good, like, but then it just became cringe because it was like copycat Trump, but you're not doing anything for California. We know you want to run for president and that you're, basically running a campaign at this point, Newsom, but California still needs you to do something, to do a lot of somethings. And so, yeah, I wish that they would just stop talking about Trump. And I guess that is how they think they're going to get all their votes, is like, oh, well, as long as we let everyone know we hate Trump, they're like, oh, okay, you got my vote. And that's sad. And back to the Tom ad real quick. So he made his money in white collar. There was like banking and hedge fund stuff. And like, that's what he did. And that's fine. But his whole video had like blue collar stuff going on in the back, as if he was, I don't know, he was like trying to make it like I'm this person, I'm one of you. And I'm so tired of these politicians doing this, because they act like, I want your vote and I'm just like you. And I know what it's like to struggle to pay the bills. And it's like, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. Please sit down and shut up.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of because we're heading up on the hour, I want to get to this one more story. Speaking of Democratic politicians who hate Trump and blame everything on Trump, Karen Bass went on Alex Michelson's show to talk about the wildfires, because there's been some reporting out of the LA Times about the firefighters being ordered to leave the site that then started up the fire again. But I want to take a quick look at that, and we'll take a look at the articles as well, and then we will comment and give our thoughts.
But there's plenty of critics. Spencer Pratt, who's online a lot talking about this, has pointed out the fact that there were no infrared cameras that were used to see potentially this thing smoldering. Was that a mistake?
All of that has to be looked at. That is certainly a tool that could have been used, and it's my understanding if that tool had been used, they might have been able to see that. But that's why now there has to be the after action at the Lockman fire. And you know that it was after the ATF's report and the arrest of the arsonist that a lot of attention focused on the Lockman fire.
So Austin Butner, who is now running for mayor against you, says we need to do an independent investigation, that the LAFD should not be investigating itself.
That is happening as well. There is an independent investigation that the governor has ordered, and we don't anticipate that full report to come out for a few months, but there might be parts of it that comes out soon. We have to do both. We have to do all of the above, but
there will be parts so we can make sure we can do proper damage control slowly but surely. Mm-hmm. Or we can make sure we edit things before they all come out all at once.
Bottom line is that there needs to be significant change, and it will happen.
Rick Caruso, who ran against you for mayor last time and may run against you for mayor the next time, put out a statement saying the lack of transparency, responsibility, and accountability in all of this for the mayor's office is staggering and inexcusable. We need full transparency, not a political cover-up. What's your response to that?
Well, my response to that is that we absolutely need to get to the bottom of everything that went wrong. There is absolutely no political cover-up that is happening here. But one thing that I think is so important is that people are still suffering. People who lost their homes, who lost relationships, the people that lost their lives, those family members. And one of the things that I think has been a tragedy in this whole situation are people who take advantage of folks' grief and people who use it for political gain and political reasons. And I think that is frankly shameful.
Is that what you think Caruso's doing?
I don't know what he's doing.
Okay. What do you make, but there's a lot of people that are angry when they hear about these text messages, when they hear about the fact that there was nobody pre-deployed, when they hear about the infrared. They feel like this fire could have been prevented. And they feel like the city, if the city would have done more, their home wouldn't have burned or 12 people wouldn't have died. And what do you say to those people?
I absolutely understand that people would feel that way. We will get to the bottom of it. Change is underway, and this.
So the text messages that she's referring to is this story from the Los Angeles Times. Days before Palisades Inferno, firefighters were ordered to leave smoldering burn site. Firefighters mopping up a small brush fire, the authorities said, reignited as the Palisades fire 5 days later, were ordered to leave the original burn scene, even though they complained the ground was still smoldering and rocks remained hot to the touch, according to firefighter text messages reviewed by the Times. To the firefighters' surprise, their battalion chief ordered them to roll up their hoses and pull out of the area on January 2nd, the day after the 8-acre blaze was declared contained, rather than stay and make sure there's no hidden embers that could spark a new fire, the text messages said. In one text message, a firefighter who was at the scene on January 2nd wrote that the battalion chief had been told it was a bad idea to leave the burn scar unprotected because of the visible signs of smoldering terrain, and the rest is history. The revelation that firefighters feared the Lockman fire could reignite comes as Pacific Palisades residents and others who lost homes and loved ones demand to know why more wasn't done to protect their communities. Complaints that the city and state failed to properly prepare and respond to a January 7th fire are already under the subject of numerous lawsuits and a Republican-led inquiry by the U.S. Senate committee. City Council member Tracy Park, who represents the Palisades, said she had heard from residents that there was smoke at the site before January 7th. Quote, I think it raises the question, knowing that there was fire on January 1st, and then rekindle activity, knowing that there's an enhanced risk in the area? Why weren't additional resources staged or deployed in and around the area? Let's see. This is from Villanueva, who is the current interim fire chief. He said, as far as we were concerned, the fire was extinguished. Unbeknownst to us, it was still in the rooting system. So to get all technical, there's fires that can happen underneath the soil. You don't see it, but there's like fires happening under the ground, like just little embers and stuff. And that can bubble up and reignite. So that's sort of what these firefighters were saying is, hey, a lot of these rocks were hot to the touch, meaning that there was something going on underneath. We should probably keep an eye on it. Quote, it is common practice for firefighters to check on past wildfires because you want to make sure it is dead out, said Patrick Butler, a former LAFD assistant chief who is now the Redondo Beach fire chief. Butler managed several large fires for the LAFD and oversaw its arson team. Quote, you don't leave until you have 100% mop up because fire can hide underground and reignite unexpectedly, even weeks later. So, looks like a lot of protocol was not followed, and it was baffling to many firefighters who were on the scene. But they basically said in these text messages, "This is a bad idea. We think that it's still it's still underground. There's still something. There's embers. Like this could reignite at any moment." So the fact that they were told to leave and then it reignited days later and caused more damage is obviously raising a lot of red flags, like who issued the order, why was the order issued, and in regards to the permits and the people suffering, this story came out. This is from the Daily Caller. LA Times ripped for Palisades fire rebuild report after permit records tell a different story. The Los Angeles Times ripped online after publishing a story saying a home had been rebuilt in the Palisades since the fire. The Times ran a piece Saturday under the headline, "The first home has been rebuilt in the wake of the Palisades fire." The story reported that a 2-story showcase home by developer Thomas James Holmes had received its certificate of occupancy from Los Angeles County. Shortly after the article went up, users on X accused the outlet of lying. Former District Coalition's director and U.S. House Communications Director Phil Hardy blasted the post saying, "It's not even true. It's just all an absolute disgrace." Plans were submitted on November 8th, 2024. So this was before the fire. So they submitted their plans well before the fire. Not a fire rebuild, just a developer spec from 2024. So permits have been slow. Rebuilding has been slow, even though she is saying that she feels for the people who are suffering. Yeah, permits have not been issued as fast as possible. It's a mess. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a mess, and they clearly use that story to try to act like they're achieving something, and it wasn't even their story. It wasn't something they did, so that's kind of embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. They tried to say that, there's this first house that was built, and it wasn't even actually anything to do with the fire. I was looking up some information. Permits issued between March and April 2025. There's only 3 initial approvals. July 2025, over 800 across Pacific Palisades. So far, under 230 projects underway. But this is probably the most disheartening, and I clipped this because I want to show this. Experts say the best case scenario for recovery from January's wildfires in Los Angeles to rebuild more than 80% of the destroyed homes won't be until mid-2028. And to achieve this goal, roughly 300 homes need to be built every month, according to the authors of Project Recovery. That's where we're at, is that it doesn't look like the majority of the Pacific Palisades will be rebuilt until 2028, almost 3 years after the fire. And keep in mind, this happened in January of 2025, so it will be longer than 3 years to rebuild the majority of the Pacific Palisades.
That's sick. That's sad. It's very sad.
So for all of her crowing and bragging about they set up a one-stop shop and they are doing everything they can, they're cutting the red tape, it does not look like it's going any better for the poor people in Pacific Palisades, and it looks like it's just getting worse and worse, and there's no relief in sight. And you have a mayor who is denying, who's pushing responsibility. And most importantly, what I want to show that clip is the fact that she basically called out people who question this. So Spencer Pratt was brought up. He's been covering this a lot, basically saying like this is dangerous, like this is a disservice to the people, and people like Rick Caruso, who's questioning what's going on with the fires, like, you know, he shouldn't be asking these questions. It almost seems like she's trying to gaslight people, that people who ask questions about the Pacific Palisades are spreading misinformation, and they are more dangerous. The fact that people are spreading this quote unquote misinformation, it's just people reporting on what they see, are more dangerous. And that's really the danger here. Not the fact that LA can't get its act together and get more permits out there so people can rebuild or get out of the way and cut red tape. No, it's people like Spencer Pratt who are just reporting on this, or people like you and me who are just reporting on this, or Rick Caruso who is out there asking questions. We're the ones who are the danger, and we're really harming those poor people in the Pacific Palisades by asking questions and wondering, hey, what the hell's going on? Why is this not going faster than you promised? Because right now it's not going very fast, and 3 years is a long time for people to wait to get their home back. And I imagine a lot of people are just going to pick up and leave pretty soon. We're coming up on a year anniversary, and I imagine sooner or later people are just going to pick up and leave and say, I'm done with this. I'm out of here. What are your thoughts? And anybody in the chat as well, if you have any thoughts. Did I lose Camille again? Anyone in the chat, I'm throwing it out there to you as well. Let me see. Let's see. Somebody said, I have open claims in the... Oh, here we go. I think she's back. There we go. I finished off asking, what are your thoughts? And then you froze at the perfect moment. So,
cool. There was my thoughts. No, so I was thinking about this. It feels like the word misinformation is a liberal or Democrat buzzword that they started using in 2020 against anybody that goes, you know, with, like we saw with COVID, if you go against their belief or their narrative and you ask questions, you are now spreading misinformation and need to be shut up. That seems to be just their thing. Like, how dare you question the permit process? That's misinformation. How dare you question the reservoir being empty? That's misinformation. How dare you question if the COVID vaccine is safe? That's misinformation.
Yeah. Someone in the chat said, I have open claims in the Palisades in Eaton, LA County is directly to blame for the delay. I have insurers running out of alternative living loss of use funds while their places are or were to be rebuilt. So far, out of 55 claims, I've had 23 sold and left for other states. Wow.
Aww.
So there you go. Someone has insurance claims knows that half of them have just given up and left, because your insurance is supposed to cover where else you're supposed to live. But they're running out of money. Like, the insurers are just running out of money because they can't keep paying for these people to be living in hotels or wherever they're living for super long. It wasn't meant for it to be that long of a time. And 3 years is unfathomable to think that the insurance companies are going to continue to pay for 3 years for you to live for somewhere else. Someone asked, are they still paying property taxes? And there was a response, yes, property taxes due in the window for have adjustments have done come and went. It's criminal. I agree. So people are paying property tax. It's just like they've botched this so badly. Mm-hmm. And I've said this before, like back in January when we first covered this story. I think LA and the wildfires is a perfect encapsulation of all the issues with California when it comes to overregulation, incompetent leadership, a slow and inefficient government. That's what I think of. Like, it all came to a congruence in LA, and just it came at the worst time to fall. I mean, it's what you call a black swan event. Like, they think they can keep this game going with how big and bloated the government is, as long as there's no black swan event, meaning a catastrophic event that no one sees coming. And then the black swan event happened, and now all these people are out of their homes, and it's just an absolute disaster. So, I mean, people are still rebuilding what, Paradise up in Northern California. They're still rebuilding up there from that fire. And that was like Jerry Brown was the governor when that happened. And Trump was.
That was like at the end of his, right? Like Newsom had already been elected, but it's Jerry Brown. Yeah, that's how long ago it was though.
It must have been like 2018. So
yeah,
that's how long ago. And people in Paradise are still rebuilding up there. So that's 7 years later. They're still rebuilding up in Paradise. I mean, that's insane. Obviously not acting as quickly. So
yeah. Quick shout out to the chat. Thank you everyone for being here.
Yeah, thank you everyone for being here. We went a little over today, but like I said, we did have a lot to cover. Any final thoughts tonight, Camille, before we sign off?
Oh, do I have final thoughts? I don't think so. I know we went long, so I don't want to keep everybody. I really do appreciate you guys being here with us. Sincerely, I don't just say that. It's like sometimes I'm baffled. I mean, I think we put out good information, but I'm like, oh, you guys all actually choose to be here. And like those of you in the chat, we always love the chat. Before I was on this podcast, I loved being in the chat. I think it's fun. So thank you really for being here. And I know it's Thanksgiving week, so it's kind of a shorter week and you guys have a lot to do. So the fact that you actually take your time to be here and chat with us is really awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, we love when we see an active chat.
I'm grateful for you.
I'm thankful
to be all,
I'm thankful for the people who tune in. Thank you. You could be anywhere. You could be watching reruns of your favorite sitcom or show or something like that. You could be watching reruns of The Office or something, but you've chosen to hang out with us and learn about California politics and keep up to date. So everyone have a great, safe, happy Thanksgiving wherever you are around California, wherever you are listening. Maybe it's not in California. So thank you again for everyone for tuning in. Best way to support the show that is 100% free is share it with someone else. Tell someone about this show and say, hey, you got to join me and tune in live at 8 p.m. every Tuesday night, which is where we go live on YouTube. And we'll see you on the next one. Later.